Hi, everybody. Royce Eddings here, Royce in the house, your vinyl junkie, and I want to welcome everybody to our first show in the year 2022. And we haven't had one through the holidays, so we've missed a couple of weeks. So we're getting back into it. It's a little bit awkward feeling, it's funny how a couple of weeks seems to make a difference, but we're back now. We're looking forward to doing the show. And I want to wish everybody, I hope everybody had a happy holiday. I want to wish everybody a happy, prosperous, successful New Year. Happy New Year. Anyway, so hi, Caitlin. How you doing, Kate? Good to see you, girl. My buddy Caitlin. And Caitlin has a great show, Caitlin's Corner. And she took a little time off. She had some health problems and some issues with her knees and things. And Kate's back now, and her show is always fun. She's fun to listen to. And I recommend everybody go watch Caitlin's Corner. And she will announce when her shows are on. In fact, Caitlin, if you want to make an announcement in the chat right now, if you have regularly scheduled shows, let us know when they are. And I'll be back on my Sundays. We're trying Sunday out. We started that a couple of weeks before the holidays. We started trying Sundays. The reasoning was Fridays, Saturdays. COVID was starting to. I mean, the economy was picking up again. People were getting to go out to the clubs and the bars, clubs, the places they used to like to go hang out with their friends. And they were taken off to go do those things on Friday and Saturday. So we thought we'd give Sunday a shot. Now, we might go back to Friday or Saturday. It just depends. We'll see how Sunday looks. But we may be right back to a Friday or Saturday, or maybe even a different day. We're just trying to pick a good day where people are sitting home, relaxing, and might be interested in watching the show. I'm not sure how much that matters, to be perfectly honest with you, because the shows are always available. You can go to YouTube, Royce in the House, and watch every show I've ever done. I mean, I think there's hundreds of them by now. Not all vinyl album unboxing and storytelling. Some of them are tours and things like that, and even some construction how-tos. But anyway, so welcome. Everyone is here. We're going to have a fun show tonight. The focus tonight is going to be on Stevie Winwood. I call him Stevie Winwood. It's actually Steve Winwood. And what I want to know is everybody ready? Okay, so we're back. Let's see. Caitlin's doing all right. Thanks. Glad to hear. Okay, good. So anyway, Steve Winwood. Who's Steve Winwood? Well, this is a pretty amazing story. Steve Winwood grew up in England. Both of his parents were professionals. His dad, his brother, they were all musicians as well. And Steve Winwood started playing the piano at 4 years old. Can you imagine that? Child prodigy, Steve Winwood playing the piano at 4 years old. And by 8 years old, he was playing in a band with his father and dad. And he didn't just play the piano and organ, he also played guitar and stuff too. But anyway, at an early age, he was playing piano, playing in a band at 8 years old with his brother and father. I mean, can you imagine 8 years old playing in a band, I'm amazed with that, because I've always struggled trying to play an instrument. And anybody that could play in a band at 8 years old, I'm so impressed with. But anyway, in the 60s and 70s, he was in 3 really great bands, and but a little more early history. Okay, by the time he was 12 years old, he joined the Ron Atkinson band, and of course, this was in England where he lived, and they used to sneak him in the back door, and they turned the piano facing away from the stage, and they would sneak him in and set him down facing away from the stage, because he was way too young to be in there, and they were trying to hide the fact that he was way too young to be in there. And as a teen in England, the English R&B scene was happening, and he was called on to back up. He was a teenager. He was called to back up people like John Lee Hooker, the famous blues player, Let's see, Chuck Berry. He did some backup and played with Chuck Berry. Backed up Bo Diddley, who kind of was one of the originators of bringing blues into rock, Bo Diddley. Let's see, who else did he back up? John Lee Hooker, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley. He really loved Ray Price. Ray Charles. There was something about Ray Charles, the way he did his phrasing and stuff, that as a teenager he was copying, and he really dug Ray Charles a lot, and his sequencing, it was effortless and things like that. So Ray Charles had a lot of nice things to say about him. A lot of people have had a lot of nice things to say about him. In fact, we think of Billy Joel as the piano man. I mean, of course, there's Elton John and others. I used to love the organ player Lee Michaels when I was a teenager, but Chuck Berry, Billy Joel said that this skinny little singer was the greatest singer. Billy Joel called him his favorite piano player. Can you imagine that? Billy Joel, the piano man, called Stevie Winwood as a teenager his favorite piano player. I mean, that just blows my mind. That's just amazing. So anyway, he played his Hammond C3 organ. He played on Billy Joel's album in 1976, The Bridge. So anyway, we'll move on. So that's a little bit about why is Stevie Winwood a child prodigy. Started playing at 4, playing a band with his family at 8, and by 12 was playing in a band in clubs, and then was called to back up all these famous musicians, and so that just amazes me. I'm really impressed. I mean, I had to look all that up because I didn't know. I knew he was a great, fantastic musician, but I really didn't know how great until I started investigating him and decided this is well worthy. He's well worthy of being on a violin boxing show, as is most people. But anyway, so to move on here, as a member of TRAFFIF, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004. Well, that was the same time that George Harrison was inducted and Prince was inducted. In fact, there's that famous, they played While My Guitar Gently Weeps together. And I'm going to pull something up here. Okay. That was an amazing song they all played, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And it's actually a very famous performance. In fact, Prince sort of stole the show at the end of the show by just an insane solo that he played, and then he threw the guitar over his head on the stage. But I mean, you had like Jeff Lynne here, Electric Light Orchestra. You have Tom Petty, and George Harrison, of course, had been deceased. But here's his son, Danny Harrison playing on stage, and of course Prince. You can't really see the keyboards from this angle, but maybe that's it there. I was having a hard time, but it's actually Steve Winwood playing keyboards. And Steve Winwood, Danny Harrison's dad, George Harrison, and Prince were all inducted in 2004. And this was a performance at that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. So anyway, I thought I'd show that as a real significant thing there. But Stevie Winwood, I got another picture I want to show of him. Young man there. I'm not sure what band or what year that picture was taken, but Stevie Winwood also was, in addition to playing piano organ, he was a great guitar player. Here he is trading licks, with Eric Clapton. They were great friends. They played in Blind Faith together. In fact, Eric Clapton was actually in the band Cream, and they were doing their final album, Goodbye, and he was already working on tracks, in his next project, which was Blind Faith with Steve Winwood. In fact, I've got an album here, Blind Faith, and I'm going to hold that up. And this is Blind Faith, and you've got Eric Clapton, Steve Winwood, Ginger Baker, famous drummer, and let's see, Rick Grech, yeah, And that was a super group right there. And of course, Clapton was coming out of this super group, the Cream, with Ginger Baker, and also Bruce Rogers, great singer. And that was a fantastic group, huge sellers, big. And anyway, so Eric Clapton went from the Cream to Blind Faith, and you can see on the microphone there is Steve Winwood. And so this is a great album. I'm happy to say that my older brother Robin Hood, which was 9 years my senior, and my mother's previous husband's last name was Hood. That's how my brother and sister got the names Robin and Donna Hood. Anyway, but my brother Robin bought me this album for my 16th birthday, because we were both Eric Clapton fans then. From the Cream and Ginger Baker, and Cream was fantastic. So my 16th birthday, my older brother showed up with this album, and I've had it ever since. And I've really prized it because of that, you know. And there's great songs on it. You know, I Had to Cry Today. Can't Find My Way Home. That's a really good song. Can't Find My Way Home. We're All Right. Presence of the Lord. I think everybody's heard that song, The Presence of the Lord. That's a fantastic song. Sea of Joy. Do What You Like. Anyway, the names of the songs are on the back along with all the words and who's credited with what part of the song, you know, who wrote it, who played what, those types of things. So anyway, so that was Blind Faith, and that was a great group. And I have, let's see, I think I have a picture. I think I have a Blind Faith picture here. Probably the same one I just had up. Let's see, is that this one here? Yeah, this is Blind Faith. Here's the guys. And it's not the same as the album cover I showed them, I'm happy to say. Okay, so that's Blind Faith, and they were a super group. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, let's see. That might have been the Spencer Davis group. I'm not sure about that one. Let me go back to the comments. So Caitlin, how you been? Yeah, the Cream was stunning. That was the very first. Let me get rid of this picture. The very first 8-track I bought. In fact, I bought two at the same time. I was 16 years old. One was Disraeli Gear's The Cream, and the other one was Creedence Clearwater, Bayou Country. Loved them both. Still love them both today. Still listen to both of them. And sometimes for days on end. Anyway, so let's see here. All right, now we can jump back to the chat and see what's going on. Well, we got Caitlin there. It's a slow night. I've been gone for a few weeks. People have forgotten about me, I guess. It'll get better. Anyway, so here we are. Okay, let's get back to Steve Winwood. Okay. He was a member of TRAFFIF, and TRAFFIF was around for a long time. Yeah, Steve Winwood wasn't there the whole time. Steve Winwood left TRAFFIF in 1969. TRAFFIF was formed in 1967, and they were together from 67 to 69. Got back together from 70 to 74, and actually from 94 to 2004. TRAFFIF was still playing. But Stevie Winwood left them, and let's see. The Spencer Davis group was actually before TRAFFIF, 63 to 69, 73 to 74, 2006 to 2020. And Winwood left them in 67, actually to form. He left the Spencer Davis group to actually to form TRAFFIF. Okay. And then eventually he left TRAFFIF and formed Blind Faith with Eric Clapton. And the origins of Blind Faith were, you know, the Cream. The Cream were breaking up in '68. They were a fantastic group. So in '69, Blind Faith was formed, and they were only active that one year, 1969. And this was the only album. This was the only album they made, 1969, Blind Faith, and that was it. They all went their separate ways. Hi, Gloria. How you doing? It's good to see you. We're sitting here talking about Steve Winwood and all of the in all the groups he was in, and I don't know if you heard the beginning at all, but he started playing piano at 4 years old. By the time he was 8 years old, he was playing in a band with his father and brother. They lived in England. They were English. He was playing in a band with his father and brother. By the time he was 12 years old, he was playing in a club, and he was too young to be there at 12 years old. And they would sneak him in the back room, and they turned the piano around so no one could see how young he was, and he played facing away from the audience. And then he backed up people like Chuck Berry, Billy Joel. He was on a Billy Joel album. Billy Joel, the piano man, called him the greatest piano player, believe it or not. He backed up Bo Diddley. Let's see. Let me take a look here. He loved Ray Charles. He backed up Chuck Berry. He loved Ray Charles. He tried to copy Ray Charles. And in fact, producer and founder of Island Records, which was their record label, called Chris Blackwell was his name. He called Stevie Winwood Ray Charles on helium. Had a higher pitched voice, but he was so much like Ray Charles because he loved Ray Charles' style so much. He called him Ray Charles on helium. Hey, Daddy Bog, how you doing, buddy? Let me say hi to Daddy. So anyway, hope you caught some of that. We talked a little bit about Stevie Winwood's childhood. You know, he's a child prodigy. Started playing piano at 4 years old. Was playing in clubs at 12 years old. Way too young to even be inside. He backed up all these famous people. And anyway, so he was just an amazing artist. I really can appreciate. The more I read about him, you know, I listened to Blind Faith's album again today. I listened to my only TRAFFIF album today. And this is a really fun album too, you know. And I listened to this one. Got some good songs on it. Walking in the Wind, Something New, Dream Gerard, Members of Rock and Rolla, Graveyard People, When Do Eagles Fly, and Love. TRAFFIF had some great albums out. They were around for a long time. TRAFFIF was a good band, very popular. Anyway, so he was in the Spencer Davis Group, TRAFFIF, Blind Faith, and then he actually went on to be a solo act afterwards. In fact, let's see. His first solo album debuted in June of 1977. Yeah, I'm not sure how it did, you know. But let's see. What was I going to say? In fact, today he's touring. He's touring in 2022 with Steely Dan, who he's toured with before in 2016. So they're going on tour together. Open the door for me. Have a great night, peeps. I can the rerun tomorrow. Hi, Royce. Open the door for me. Where are you going, man? Where are you going, Box? Boxster's bailing. Anyway, I appreciate everybody that's in the chat. We're just getting going again. Like I said, it almost feels awkward to me because it's been a few weeks. But we're going to get back to doing our fun little tour videos, and they're usually short, anywhere from 10 to 25 minutes, no more than that. They're just fun. We get around, we get to see the county, we get to visit places, and I always enjoy doing those. And it forces me to go see things that I've been taken for granted because I've lived in this area for so long. You know, we moved up here in '77, and like I said, you get used to things. I mean, we're 8 miles from the Pacific Ocean. It's easy to start taking all this stuff for granted. You know, sometimes you don't miss it until you're gone. But Yeah, mini vacation. Yeah, videos. Yeah, no, I love those little mini vacation videos. That's what I feel like. You know, my wife goes with me, and she doesn't like to be on the camera so much, but you'd be surprised how much help she is. She's constantly doing research. She's sending me stuff that she found on my phone to look at. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? She comes up with ideas for shows. Several of the little tours we've done, you know, famous places around the county and stuff, in here on the Central Coast. I mean, were her idea, you know. So she comes up with a lot of ideas and helps me out that way. She doesn't really want to be on the film, but a little camera shy. But she's a huge help. She really, I don't know if I could do anything without her. But well, we've been 48 years of marriage. I think 49 this year, and then we're together before that. Together forever. Like my entire adult life, I've been with Betty. She was 18 and I was 20 when we got married. And I think our first date was her 17th birthday. We went to Taco Bell. Big spender, baby. Lots of class here. So anyway, so Steve Winwood. Does anybody have any comments on Steve Winwood? Does anybody have any of the albums? You know, Spencer Davis Group, Traffic, Blind Faith, solo stuff. And so anyway, he's a child prodigy. Once again, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was inducted as a member of Traffic the very night that Prince was inducted and George Harrison was inducted. And they all played together on stage. You know, Stevie Winwood was playing the organ. And so that was pretty special. I watched the video of them doing As My Guitar Gently Weeps. I've probably watched that video 6 or 7 times. It's just a great video. And Prince pretty much brings the house down with his solo on the end. And I never realized how great of a guitar player Prince was until people started talking about his performance in that very video. And then I got way more into Prince and way more into his guitar playing. And I come to really respect him. So anyway, so from the Spencer Davis Group to Blind Faith to Traffic to solo. And the Spencer Davis Group, Blind Faith, and Traffic were all real significant bands in the 60s and 70s. They were big acts, you know. And I saw, you know what? I have to admit I've never seen Steve Winwood in concert. But I listened to some Traffic tonight. Heard plenty of Traffic. And this particular album, I thought, was some of the songs, Traffic, when the Eagle Flies, I thought a lot of these songs were very jazzy. I thought I was listening to a jazz album when I was listening to some of the songs. Not all of them, some of them. Because his influence were R&B. Like I said, he did some backup for people like Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, people like that. Folk, he did some folk music, was part of his origins. He did jazz and progressive rock. So he did a little bit of everything. And I'm getting into jazz a little bit more lately. You know, I really like that Miles Davis kind of blue. And I tell you, if you can find an original copy of that, buy it. I think it's worth a few $1,000, kind of blue, the original pressing of that. I was looking today at a list of albums that were worth a lot of money. Even an original pressing of Led Zeppelin 1, they're saying is worth $1,000. In fact, there's a bunch of stuff that they were saying was worth $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 that I would swear in the last couple of months I've seen in the used record stores. You know, so I'm gonna put this list. I'm gonna write this list down and carry it around in my wallet. Caitlin, well, yeah, I got it. Look at the cute puppy. Yeah, no, the Violet Unicorn's here, Monroe. She wanted in the room really bad, so I brought her in. I'd already taken her bed off my desk where she likes to hang out all day long if I'm in here working, and put it back up on my desk. Pulled it forward so we could all see it. Anyway, so she could have probably worn her suit tonight, but it's been kind of cold here, but the heater's on, so it's warm enough. So anyway, does anybody have anything that they want to add to what we're talking about tonight? as far as Stevie Winwood? Because if you do, just holler. And let's see. I have an original pressing of Stan Getz record. Oh, do you know, Caitlin? Do you know anything about the value of that? Just curious. Okay. Well, let me pull some pictures up. We can look at some pictures of Steve Winwood and talk about this a little bit. And I think we looked at this one moments ago. This is Steve Winwood. You know, the guy started playing piano at 4, was in bands at 8, and performing in bigger bands and clubs at 12. But he doesn't just. But he's such a talent. You know, like a Prince who played all the instruments on some of his whole albums. He played every instrument. Um, in fact, our own Scott Harris, I think, does that on his albums too, which I really admire. But here he is. Here's Steve Winwood and Eric Clapton playing guitars together. I really get impressed with that. I mean, they played together in Blind Faith and did some performing together. And then we've got this one. look at Ginger Baker here. What a character. Okay, then here we've got, once again, Steve Winwood and Eric Clapton. This is in 2008. Now this time Steve Winwood's sitting down the organ and Clapton's playing guitar. Clapton and Winwood again. Look at this. Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood, faithful friends, find their way home. That's cool. And this is in a music magazine. Wow. Pretty young there, too. Winwood is. And this is the performance I talked about where they were all inducted into the Hall of Fame. Prince. Over here is Danny Harrison, George Harrison's son, up on stage playing. And then this must be Stevie Winwood here, because he played keyboard and was also inducted as a member of the band TRAFFIF that night into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then I thought this was kind of fun, so I thought I'd bring this out too. The very best of Steve Winwood. So songs from TRAFFIF, Blind Faith, and the Spencer Davis Group. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that that was out. I'd like to get a copy of that. That's totally cool. So anyway, let's go back to comments. And we'll need to get rid of that picture before I go back to comments. All right. Now we're back to the comments. In regards to Steve Winwood, my mom loves the Spencer Davis Group. No kidding. How old is your mother, if you don't mind me asking? My mom would love that. Yeah, totally cool. Ignore the bots. The bogs? Okay. Oh, what is this? Online strips without clothing. Ah, that's interesting. Online strips without clothing. Anybody have it? Oh, your mother's 72, Kate? Okay. All right, cool. Does she live near you at all, or? Let's see. All right. Hey, Adam. Adam D's here. How you doing, Adam? We've been talking about Stevie Winwood. This is the first show since just before the holidays, so we're kind of easing our way back into it. And it's probably not going to be a very long show, to be perfectly honest with you. We've gone through kind of Stevie Winwood from his child prodigy days. Started playing the piano at 4 years old. was in his brother and dad's band at 8 years old, was playing in a club with his back to the audience. They didn't see how old he was at 12 years old. And then was tapped as a teenager to do some backup for Bo Diddley and God, so many people. Let's see, he did some backup for Chuck Berry, John Lee Hooker, the famous bluesman, Ray Charles. He loved Ray Charles, and tried to copy Ray Charles to some degree, his musical style, different voices altogether, but loved the way Ray Charles did his thing, singing, his phrasing, etc. And in fact, the founder and owner of Island Records referred to Steve Winwood as Ray Charles on helium. Anyway, so we've gone through all that. The bands he was a member of, he was in Spencer Davis Group, and then TRAFFIF, and then the Blind Faith, and now he's a solo act. He's getting ready to go on tour with Steely Dan. He's going on tour in 2022 with Steely Dan, who he's toured with before. They toured together in 2016. Stevie Winwood makes me think it's always sunny in Pennsylvania. That's cool. Yeah, he's an English boy. They came from England, and his father and brother were musicians as well. Mom and dad were both professionals. Anyway, so wow, I think I pretty much just ran out of Stevie Winwood stuff to talk about here. Played organ on While My Guitar Gently Weeps with that esteemed group up there. And let's see, what else did I have here? I was going to maybe, give me a moment. Okay. Okay. We're dropping stuff. Okay, well, that didn't work out. So let's see. What I wanted to do is sometime back, I got a copy of Rolling Stone magazine with its 100 greatest guitarists of all time. And we went through 1 through 10 and just discussed them. And I always wanted to work my way, 10, 12, 15 at a time through the whole list. And it was pretty impressive because the voters that voted for the greatest guitar player of all time, I won't read the whole list. It's a pretty big list, but I'll just point out what kind of a panel was voting here. And we had Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains was one of the voters for the greatest guitar player of all time. Let's see, just picking up more people than everybody. Kirk Hammett, Metallica, was one of the voters. So I mean, these are all fantastic guitar players that were voters. Alex Lifeson from Rush, Mick Mars from Motley Crue, Brian May from Queen, Mick McCready from Pearl Jam, Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, Joe Perry from Aerosmith. So anyway, I mean, this is Mick Taylor, Derek Trucks, Eddie Van Halen was a voter, Joe Walsh was a voter, Nancy Wilson from Heart was a voter. So that gives you some idea. These weren't anonymous type folks. I mean, these were great. And of course, we went 1 through 10 already. And of course, number one seems to show up a lot at number one. And my favorite guitar player was Jimi Hendrix, and he showed up at number one. Okay, let me go back now. Okay, Stevie Ray Vaughan at 12, huh? All right. So we'll go all the way back, and we've got you guys can jump in and comment on this stuff at any time. And I'll briefly run through 1 through 10. We had Jimi Hendrix, and Pete Townsend wrote the write up on him. Pete Townsend. Okay, so Jimi Hendrix was voted by all these guitar players as #1 best guitarist in the world, and then there's a long article that follows. It's very interesting. Eric Clapton was voted #2. Now I love Eric Clapton, and mid '60s they were painting Eric Clapton as God on the walls in England. I don't know that I could have put him #2. I have so many favorites when it comes to guitar players. Jimmy Page, etc. They did put Jimmy Page as #3. And no disrespect for Eric Clapton. I've liked all Clapton's music for so long. But so anyway, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton's write-up was done by Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen wrote the article on Eric Clapton. Okay. And then #3, we had Jimmy Page, and his write-up was done by Joe Perry. Joe Perry wrote up his thoughts on Jimmy Page's guitar playing. And then we went to Keith Richards, written up by Niles Lofgren as #4. By this, I mean, that's quite a panel of guitarists that wrote this up. They've got Jeff Beck at #5. They have B.B. King as #6, written up by Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. Chuck Berry, of course. Who would have written up Chuck Berry but Keith Richards, who really emulated Chuck Berry's style as close as he could. Keith Richards is a great guitar player. He actually toured with Chuck Berry. And then #8, written up by Mike McCready of Pearl Jam, is none other than Eddie Van Halen. And I'm really glad to see this, because what an innovator. Just fantastic. The thing that even makes Eddie Van Halen more remarkable is he grew up in I think it was Amsterdam. They didn't even speak English. His entire family didn't speak English. And then they moved up to Denmark, and they were mixed race families, parents, mixed race family, and they weren't treated real well. And so when they were both, the parents wanted them to be concert pianists. They finally took off and moved to America, and both the boys, Alex and Eddie, were enrolled into piano lessons, and Eddie was really excelling. He was really, they were really impressed with Eddie Van Halen's concert piano playing. And all of a sudden, one day they came home and told their parents, "We're joining a rock band." And the rest is history. But the amazing thing is, when you see Eddie doing all that two-hand tapping and stuff on the guitar, there's a video, you can Google it, and you'll see it, of Eddie and Alex's dad playing the guitar, and all of that two-hand tapping we think Eddie invented, his dad is playing it. I mean, like 60 years ago or whatever, his dad is doing the two-hand tapping. That amazed me when I saw that. It kind of blew my mind. Okay, then number 9, Dwayne Allman was ranked as #9. Show a quick picture. We lost so many great artists. It almost makes me ill to think about. And #10, Pete Townsend of The Who. Okay, so that was the top 10, and we had a show where we just did that top 10. So we'll go ahead. We're not going to spend the kind of time we spent on the top 10, going maybe 10 through 20, because we made a whole show out of that. But we'll move on to number 11 now, and who they have ranked here as the 11th greatest guitar player of all time. And I don't know how many people are going to agree with this, and it's written up by Tom Petty, is George Harrison. I think to me, what makes George Harrison great was he was the king of he was the king of the little hooks, that little lead, that little hook that, I mean, is instantly recognizable today. you hit one or two or three notes and you know what that Beatles song is, because he was like the king of the hook. He played that little intro, but they call it a hook too, that hooked you in to the rest of the song. And George Harrison had just one right after another, and they're all recognizable. All the music they put out, I mean, you could just, you know, if you spend any time listening to Beatles music, I grew up listening to it, you just know those songs instantly what they are after a couple of notes. Sometimes one note is all you need. And that's probably the biggest reason George Harrison is shown as number 11, because right behind him at 12 is Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, and I you know, the two of them were trading licks. I mean, that would be something. But anyway, so Stevie Ray Vaughan is shown as number 12. And once again, another one that was gone too soon. I think we need to do a show on Gone Too Soon. Beatles talk. I'm out, laughing out loud. Love you. No, we're not talking about the Beatles anymore. That was just happened to come up. So anyway, so Stevie Ray Vaughan is shown as number 12, and number 13 is being shown Albert King. And what a fantastic blues guitar player Albert King was. Okay, number 14. Look at this. We've got David Gilmour. Let me get over here. David Gilmour shown, number 14. Wish you could have seen 15 at the same time. Freddie King, along with Albert King, fantastic blues players. And here you've got Derek Trucks being shown as 16. And of the Allman Brothers, Derek Trucks. Okay. So number 17. Now, I love this artist. Okay, I mean, I can listen to his music all day long. He's fantastic, and look how young he is here. And that is voted number 17 as greatest guitarist, Neil Young. Neil Young. Some people say the father of grunge. You know, grunge and metal. I mean, listen to Cinnamon Girl. You know, the guitar playing in Cinnamon Girl. If I were ever going to teach a master class to young guitarists, the first thing I would play them is the first minute of Neil Young's original Down by the River solo. Okay, wow, this is amazing. At number 18, they have listed as 18th greatest guitar player of all time, none other than Les Paul. Les Paul, right here, who invented the Les Paul guitar. And I've listened to Les Paul and Mary Ford do songs, and he's a great guitar player. Les Paul, I didn't expect him to show up in the top 20 as number 18. Number 19, we have listed as James Burton. Only 15 years old when he co-wrote and recorded the song Susie Q. 15 years old. We've all heard that by Creedence, of course. He played with a distinguished technique, a finger pick and a flat pick. Played the four highest strings on the Telecaster. He played the four highest strings on the Telecaster with banjo strings. That's the first I've ever heard of anybody doing that. Anyway, Joe Walsh recalls his technique was all important. All right. So that's James Burton, number 19. And this is great. And I would definitely agree with this, if not even a little higher, because I love this guy and have since I first saw him in, you know, Woodstock. And that is Carlos Santana. I would give him 20 all day long. Yeah, he's got a, you know, just a soulful style, and I might even move him up higher than 20, to be honest with you. I love Santana. Wow. Okay, so that was 20. 21, they have country artist Chet Atkins, and I remember the first time I took guitar lessons, it was a Chet Atkins book, you know, that he wrote for guitar lessons. And he's a record executive and producer in the 60s. He invented the pop-wise Nashville sound. Invented the pop-wise Nashville sound. Okay. Number 22, they have listed as Frank Zappa. Let's see. Carlos Santana. Yeah, Gloria. I'm a huge Santana fan. I love Santana. I mean, his style of music is just, I don't know, man. It's just more soulful. I don't even know if soul is the right word because it's rock and roll, but it's not soul music as a genre, but it's just the sweetest guitar sounding music you'll ever listen to. I mean, Santana won with Soul Sacrifice. I mean, Soul Sacrifice. They played that at Woodstock. Real long version of it. What a fantastic song! I've been hooked on Santana ever since I heard him play Soul Sacrifice at Woodstock. I love Santana's music. Um, okay, so then we've got then Frank Zappa is listed as a 22 greatest guitar player of all time. I did not know that. Now here's one, number 25. They've got Buddy Guy listed. And the reason I'm not telling you who's doing the write-ups on these and stuff, as we move into the magazine, the write-ups are much smaller, and they're not even really listing the name at the top anymore of who wrote it up. But Buddy Guy. Now, one thing I have to say about Buddy Guy, he's a bluesman, and if you've ever seen him in concert, he usually has a polka dotted shirt on, like say purple with white polka dots, and his guitar will look the same way. It'll have polka dots on it. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen him twice in concert, once with BB King at our little Chumash Indian casino here. I say little, it's actually a big casino. It's an hour and a half away. You drive by you drive by the Neverland Ranch to get out there through Santa Ynez. It's just a couple of miles off the road is former Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. And anyway, I want to go out there and make a little travel video too. Hopefully I'll practice up and do some moonwalking out in front of the Neverland Ranch. I used to be pretty good at it, only to amuse my children when they were small. Anyway, so I've got the sequence glove, I've got sequence socks, the black derby. So I got to go out to the Neverland Ranch and do some moonwalking. I think that's important. Anyway, so Buddy Guy, get back to Buddy Guy. Saw him with BB King at the Chumash Casino. And then a few years back, I think it was 2000, maybe 6, they had a tribute to Hendrix tour going around. And I got to see Buddy Guy again playing in the tribute to Hendrix concert. And amazingly, Jimi Hendrix called Buddy Guy the greatest living guitar player. Here, Hendrix is listed as number 1 in this poll, and Buddy Guy is listed as number 23. Of course, Hendrix had much more notoriety. Buddy Guy being a blues player, the blues players never quite got the notoriety as the good rock players, even though some of them were as good and better, obviously. But anyway, Buddy Guy's great. And number 24, AC/DC's Angus Young, listed as 24th greatest guitar player of all time. All right, so that's interesting. Okay, all right. So number 25, we're gonna keep going here for a while. Number 25 is none other than Black Sabbath's Tony Iommi. Tony Iommi, who invented like heavy metal and power chords, because he had an accident and this industrial job he had, and cut the tips of all his fingers off, and he had to completely change his style of playing, and he had little caps capping his fingers, and so it just lent itself to playing the distorted power chords that made Black Sabbath so famous. I mean, who does that? Well, Tony Iommi does. And let me see. I'll remember the first time I heard Black Sabbath. My older brother got their album Masters of Reality from a kid who lived next door, and we'd been passing it around. It was like crack. Great. We were playing it with the lights down and a candle burning. And when my dad burst into the room, he was like, "What is this shit?" Dad burst into the room. "What is this shit?" Then he broke the record right in front of us. That's great. That's awesome. Okay, so Tony Iommi, number 25 on the Rock and Roll Magazine's 100 Greatest Guitarists of All Time. And the panel that voted for these guys was really, really amazing. Okay, Brian May, who was actually on the voting panel, is from Queen's guitarist, is listed as number 26th greatest guitarist of all time. Yeah, he's a great guitarist. What a great band. Bo Diddley is rated as number 27, and Bo Diddley actually tapped our guy tonight, Steve Winwood, tapped him to play backup for him. You know, Steve Winwood as a teenager was tapped by Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, and several of the others to do some backup playing for him. So anyway, Bo Diddley, I think he played. He had some guitars shaped like cigar boxes. He was kind of famous for his, well, not only his playing, in his improvising, and helping to bring blues music into the rock world. But he had guitars that were shaped like cigar boxes. Crazy. Rectangular Gretsch. Okay, so number 28, and I was not a big fan of this genre of music. You know, maybe I need to give it another chance, but excuse me. But Johnny Ramone of the Ramones was number 28. The fathers of punk rock guitar, and a huge influence on the riff-driven modern metal. Johnny Ramone is one of the instrument's great anti-heroes. That's kind of interesting. One of the guitar's greatest anti-heroes. Okay, well that's an interesting comment, an anti-hero. And I get it, you know, because they tried to punk tried to strip it down to being just very raw, you know. And so I kind of get where that's coming from. Okay, so number 29, and this is interesting, but probably well-deserved. Scotty Moore, Elvis Presley's guitarist. And if you think about the Elvis songs, there's some great guitar playing taking place. People don't realize just how good it is because Elvis's voice, you know, of course, the human voice is always the most important instrument in the band. And it just, you know, it's so dominant. Elvis's voice is so dominant. You don't realize how great the guitar playing is and some of the musicianship is. Okay, so Scotty Moore, number 29. Elmore James. Elmore James is listed as the 30th greatest guitarist of all time. And Mississippi-born singer-guitarist Elmore James had one immortal lick. The staccato and downhill slide riff in his 1951 adaptation of Robert Johnson's I Believe I'll Dust My Broom. Robert Johnson, that's a whole nother show, Robert Johnson, and the story about the Crossroads and how he disappeared for a while, kind of an average good blues player, just playing in bars. He disappeared for a while. Nobody knew what happened to him, and he came back and was just off the charts as a blues guitarist. And so that's where the story of the Crossroads comes from. And the story goes that he went down to the Crossroads and sold his soul to the devil to be a better guitar player. And that was, very interesting story. Okay, so Elmore James. Then we have Ry Cruder, another blues player. Ry Cruder is listed as number 31. Okay. Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top. And I definitely agree with this, 32. I maybe could even move him up some, you know. I mean, Billy Gibbons is fantastic. I've seen them in concert. That was on the Laughlin River Run. Me and my buddies rode our motorcycles out to Laughlin, Nevada. Annual river run where a couple 100,000 people show up. And I got to see ZZ Top play. It was great. Texas style, Gibbons. All right, now that was number 32. Billy Gibbons was listed as number 32. Okay. All right, number 33. And there was a time when I might not have agreed with this, but I'm not sure that I couldn't move him actually higher now that I've gotten even more into him and listened to so much more of his music. It's Prince. It's like we're going back to big pictures again. Prince, listed as the number 33 of the greatest guitarist of all time. And I will agree with at least 33. Arguably the greatest power ballad guitar solo in history, Purple Rain. Yeah, no, an amazing thing about Prince, and I don't think I appreciated him in the early years as much as I do now. I mean, I remember Purple Rain and the little movie they made or video of it, you know, with him riding his motorcycle and stuff like that. And I remember all that, and I liked it, you know, but I didn't get into a little late to the game as far as being a real Prince fan. And now I'm a real Prince fan. In fact, I recently bought another Prince album. You know, I don't think I've even opened it up and played it yet, but I wanted it, so I bought it. But anyway, so that was Prince. And one of the things that really impresses me about Prince is some of his albums, he plays every single instrument on them. And, you know, our buddy Scott Harris, with his Horror House line of albums, I think he's just finished the third one. Scott plays every single instrument, you know, and I really need to sit down and listen to that more. I've listened to a little bit of Scott's stuff, but I haven't listened to a lot of it. And so anyway, Prince, you know, his performance, and I've talked about this already before I even knew Prince was on the list. His performance, you know, at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, had jaws on the floor, you know. I mean, and they did. I've watched that a half a dozen times at least, and maybe even more. And you know, When Doves Cry, Hottest Planet, Functional Background. Okay. You talk about Hendrix a little bit and some of his other influences. Okay. So Prince is definitely an amazing musician. Amazing. Number 34, we go to Curtis Mayfield. That's R&B, baby. One of American soul's finest singers, songwriters, and producers. He was also a quietly influential guitarist whose gently fluid melodies and fills running to the records like the impressions on Gypsy Woman left a deep impact on Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was a big fan of all these people and played with many of them. Okay, so that's really cool. Number 34. Number 35, I have seen in concert, maybe twice. We went on a blues cruise, Betty and I, back in the day when I was a member of the San Luis Obispo Blues Society, and they had monthly blues concerts. And they sponsored a blues cruise, and we all went to the Caribbean, and every night we listened to blues music. Anyway, so John Lee Hooker, I think, was there on that cruise, and he's a pretty cool guy. John Lee Hooker once said, "I don't want to play the kind of guitar I want to play. What I want to play is mean licks." He wants to play mean licks. Yeah. All right, so John Lee Hooker, he's fun to listen to. I had a CD of his. I don't think I have any of his music now. I'm kind of running low on blues. I was a big fan of the blues, and you know, I really enjoyed how the blues influenced, you know, all the early 60s rock and continues to influence the rock today. But anyway, so I was really into the blues. And here's a picture of John Lee Hooker. And he's typically playing a guitar like the Gibson 335, which is the same style as that spalted Mabel semi-hollow body guitar right there. It's really a great guitar with a lot of great tone. Anyway, that's what he's always shown playing, on his album covers and stuff. So anyway, after John Lee Hooker, now I don't know about this one. Number 36, they have Randy Rhodes. And I would have to push Randy Rhodes up higher than that. Poor Randy Rhodes, he died young, like so many others. Again, we have to do a show on those that left too soon. I know there's a 27 club where many of them were 27 years old. A big group of fantastic musicians that died at 27. But I would want to spread it out a little bit more. Elvis Presley died, I don't know, 44 years old, and Randy Rhodes. I'm not sure how Randy Rhodes was when he died, but let's see, at the age of 25. The age of 25. Wow. He died at the age of 25, and he was Ozzy Osbourne's guitar player on Blizzard of Oz, and famous poster, Ozzy Osbourne holding him up by the legs because he was kind of a little guy. Ozzy's holding up Randy Rhodes while he's playing his guitar, And I love that picture. And I also love the song Crazy Train that he plays. I practice Crazy Train a little bit on the guitar. I have a long ways to go on it, but the intro and stuff like that I can play. Anyway, I might do that on the show sometime. Randy Rhodes, 36, from what I've seen, 25 years old, he was that good. I may have to push him up higher than 26. I don't know how the chat feels. Have you guys been taking any notes on some of these rankings and stuff? I mean, Randy Rhodes at 36, Prince at 33. Any thoughts on that, guys? Mick Taylor is 37. Okay, fun, FR. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. There was a couple of those. It's like the name changed slightly. Whatever. Anyway, so Mick Taylor, formerly the Rolling Stones, another one that died rather young. Let's see, left the group. He left the group in 1974. Some people think that was the best version of the band when Mick Taylor was still in the band. Anyway, so that was number 37, Mick Taylor. 38. Well, he's a great guitar player. The Edge, U2. Picture of the Edge. He's a great guitar player. I have no argument. I don't know that I can't say that I would move him up or down, but I'm definitely fine with 38. Okay, then 39, we have Steve Cropper. Peter Buck calls Steve Cropper probably my favorite guitarist of all time. You can't think of a time when he really ripped off a hot solo, but he just plays perfectly. Let me see. So he was in a lot of bands. He was in Booker T and the MGs, which was an all instrumental band if I remember right. It was a kind of an R&B blues style band. I know when I was a big fan of soul, Booker T was and the MGs were popular. So Steve Cropper played there. He also played in hits by Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, a stint with the Blues Brothers band. Anyway, so that's interesting. I wasn't really that familiar with the name Steve Cropper, number 39. Okay, at number 40, they have listed Tom Morello. Tom Morello. There's no picture of him. We're back to the smaller articles here. And let's see. Tom Morello remained rock guitar. I'm sorry. I really should have put my glasses on already. He reimagined rock guitar for the post-hip-hop world in the 1990s with funk metal innovators Rage Against the Machine. So Tom Morello played with Rage Against the Machine. Okay, so reinvented metal after the funk metal. All right, so number 41, greatest guitarist of all time, we have Mick Ronson. Phrasing and skewering distortion ignited David Bowie's sexually blurred confrontations, like in Ziggy Stardust in the early 70s. Mick was a perfect foil for the Ziggy character. Okay, so Mick Ronson was with David Bowie. Now this one, this guy I really like, and I don't know what he's done lately, but Mike Bloomfield. Mike Bloomfield was fantastic in the 60s. Let's see what they say about him. He didn't get a chance to expand the mission of his soul, but those few albums he played on, those are enough, says Carlos Santana. This is Carlos Santana talking about Mike Bloomfield. And I remember, and I've just seen this album become available again. I can't remember, you see so many places on Facebook selling vinyl now, but one of them selling Super Sessions. And Super Sessions were Mike Bloomfield, number 42 here, Al Cooper, and a couple of other people. I can't think of the names offhand. But Mike Bloomfield was really a highly regarded guitarist. And so anyway, it goes on to say he overdosed at age 37. So we never saw what he might have accomplished. Carlos Santana, like I said, referred to him, the few albums he did as being enough, to see how great he was. Let's see. He helped Bob Dylan go electric with his work on Highway 61 Revisited. Songs like A Rolling Stone, Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, and 2 albums with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, which is a great blues band, in the 1966 Raga Blues Monster, East West, winding epic solo, native Chicagoan. Yeah, they don't say anything about this is funny. Santana says Mike Bloomfield comes from B.B. King, but he went somewhere else. I love stuff like that. Anyway, Mike Bloomfield, he was a great guitarist and really highly regarded when I was like, 15 years old, 16 years old, 14 years old. And Super Sessions was a huge hit. And Mike Bloomfield was guitarist in Super Sessions. And I'm going to buy that album again because I see it's available again. Okay, that's 42. 43, again, somebody I'm not familiar with, and that is Hubert Sumlin. Jimmy Page has said he always played the right thing at the right time. Well, that's impressive to hear Jimmy Page say that about anybody. Always played the right thing at the right time. I recently heard somebody say that about Jimmy Page. Okay, so during more than 2 decades playing alongside Howling Wolf, Sumlin always seemed to have an almost telepathic connection to the legendary blues singer. Howlin' Wolf has really been copied by a lot of rock acts, including Led Zeppelin. They all took Howlin' Wolf songs. He was great. I walked into a heating and air conditioning shop one time, and I was standing out in the fabrication shop while the contractor I came to see, the heating and air contractor, was talking to some people in his office. And he had a stereo going with some speakers up high and stuff. And when he finally walked out, I said, who's that guy copying Led Zeppelin songs? And he looked at me, shook his head and laughed, and he goes, no, that's Howlin' Wolf. Led Zeppelin copied his songs. I was like, oh, shit. A lot I don't know. Okay. That was number 43. Number 44, Mark Knopfler. Dire Straits. Yeah, Sultans of Swing. I mean, Money for Nothing. So many fantastic songs, Yeah, Mark Knopfler. I really like his guitar playing. Let's see. So we've got some odd stuff keeps popping up here. I have no idea what it is. I already blocked it once. And let me just go ahead and block it again. There we go. Irritating. All right. People got nothing better to do than troll people. Okay, so that was Mark Knopfler. Number 45 on the list is Link Ray. And let's see. Blonde. I'm not real familiar with Link Ray. He released Rumble in 1958. Maybe that's why I'm not really familiar with him. I was 4 or 5 years old. Anyway, overdriven sound that would reverberate through the metal, punk, and grunge. Huh. Before his time. All right. Well, that's Link Ray. No picture of him or anything. And number 46, and we all know who number 46 is, and that's Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead. I never got to see him in concert. I know that Grateful Dead they always referred to them as a jam. You know, they didn't just get up and play 3 and 4 minute songs. They took off and just played and played and played. And that would have been fun, you know. They were really big when I was a teenager. And driving that train high on cocaine. Casey Jones, you better watch your speed. That song, when I moved to Long Beach in 1971, I heard that song on the radio 10 times a day. Grateful Dead was really big then. A lot of crazy stuff happening then. Jerry Garcia, and he actually has a write-up here. I'm glad to see another write-up by somebody. Jerry Garcia is written up by Carlos Santana. So let me see. Most people who play the blues are very conservative. They stay a certain way. Jerry Garcia was painting outside the frame. He played blues, but mixed it with bluegrass and Ravi Shankar. The Beatles were big fans of Ravi Shankar. He had country and Spanish in there. There was a lot of Chet Atkins in him, going up and down the fret. But you could always hear a theme in his playing. It's like putting beads on a string. Instead of throwing them around the room, Jerry had a tremendous sense of purpose. Well, that's Carlos Santana talking about Jerry Garcia. That's awesome. I really like hearing that. Okay, now I would agree with this all day long, but I'm not so sure that I wouldn't actually move him up. And I'm talking about none other than Stephen Stills, who I loved him in his solo career long before he ever was part of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Taylor. But Stephen Stills was a fantastic guitar player, and his solo work before all that was just great artist. So Stephen Stills is at 47, and he's a musical genius. Neil Young once said. Neil Young called Stephen Stills a musical genius. I'm really impressed with that because I love Neil Young. He was bandmates and co-lead guitarist in Buffalo Springfield. Okay, so not only was he a solo artist, he was guitarist in Buffalo Springfield, which was a huge band, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Stills is one of rock's most underrated guitarists, possibly because of his well-established reputation as a singer-songwriter. And he had great songs. I really enjoyed them. So anyway, Stephen Stills is a fantastic artist. We could do a whole show on Stephen Stills, you know, Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Stephen Stills solo. I mean, he's fantastic. Okay, so after that, and I'm not familiar, just looking at the name here, number 48 is Jonny Greenwood from the 21st Century Rock Band, Jonny Greenwood. Radiohead, from the band Radiohead. Okay, all right, so 48, Jonny Greenwood. All right, now this one's big to me because I'm a big fan of this person, and his write-up is by Derek Trucks, and we're talking about none other than Muddy Waters, and I really am a fan of Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters, what a great musician, what a career he had. Muddy Waters, written up by Derek Trucks. He influenced so many people, so many. Um, Delta Blues, sitting at the feet when he was playing was, Charlie Patton, Son House. He plays slide guitar. I mean, there's so many songs, Muddy Waters. He played guitar less. Anyway, Delta Bluesman, Muddy Waters. Ain't that a man? I have some of his music. I don't have it on vinyl. I have some of his music on CD. Number 50, Deep Purple's Ritchie Blackmore. Who can forget Smoke on the Water? What a fantastic song. He helped define heavy metal. Yes, he did. He helped define heavy metal. All right, Ritchie Blackmore. 50 for sure. No later than that. He could be. Wouldn't have bothered me if I seen him in the 40s and 30s, but yeah, I can accept 50. 51, Johnny Marr, and Johnny Marr, the Smiths, the guitarist, and he was guitar genius for the post-punk era. Not a showboating soloist, but a technician. Okay, so Johnny Marr, highly regarded technician on the guitar. 52, we have Clarence White. Clarence White, he helped to shape two genres. His acoustic flat picking, first displayed as a teenager in the Kentucky Colonels Band, was key to making the guitar a lead instrument in bluegrass. Later on, he set the stage for country rock and transferred that dynamic precision and melodic symmetry into the electric guitar. So anyway, Clarence White. And you know what? I've got to go through, that's 52. I got to go through the next three, and then we're going to stop. And I'll save, actually, there's people I'm seeing beyond that I think are better than some of the people that we've already done. But I'm going to go to 55 and stop. Okay, so that was Clarence White. Next is 53 is Otis Rush. And I'm familiar with Otis Rush blues, white blues bands. Mike Bloomfield told Rolling Stone in 1968, you had to be as good as Otis Rush. You had to be as good as Otis Rush. And that wasn't easy. I mean, if you're going to be in a white blues band. Anyway, so Otis Rush was a highly vaunted, he played with Muddy Waters, played with B.B. King, played with guitarists like Magic Sam, Buddy Guy. So Otis Rush helped create the more modernized R&B influenced approach to Chicago blues. So Otis Rush, big contribution. He deserves 53. 54 now, I can move him up, 40s, 30s, easy, because he's fantastic. And everybody knows Joe Walsh. And Joe Walsh had an amazing career, before the Eagles. But he was great in the Eagles. I mean, he took that band to new heights. That interplay on the guitar between Joe Walsh and the other guitarist for the Eagles was they boosted each other to new heights, from everything I've read and from everything I heard. They helped each other go to the next level. So Joe Walsh, I think Joe Walsh is a fantastic guitar player, and he's highly regarded by other guitar players. And then we're going to stop at this one. And I had to go that far once I saw his picture. I was only going to go to 20. And that's John Lennon. Here's John Lennon, number 55, regarded as the 55th greatest guitarist of all time. I don't know how people feel about that. I don't even know how I feel about it, to be perfectly honest with you. But when Rolling Stone founder asked John Lennon how he rated himself as a guitarist, Lennon replied, "I'm not technically good, but I can make it fucking howl and move." That's funny. Anyway, so John Lennon, number 55 on the list of 100 greatest guitarists of all time. And on another night when we don't have a lot to show, we'll go ahead and do a little bit more of that and some other things as well. So anyway, I want to thank everybody. I really appreciate everybody that showed up, stopped in. I know there'll be other people watching it later. Not a lot of views, I'm sure, initially, but thank you all very much. Caitlin, as always, thank you so much. And Gloria and Adam came in for a little bit, and that was really cool. And just really appreciate you guys. Daddy Boggs was here for a little bit. He's been kind of silent. He left. He disappeared for a while. I mean, unsubscribed my show, unfriended me, and everything else. And then recently, the Bogster's been coming around, and that's cool. Anyway, so we're going to close the show, and really appreciate you all. Thank you very much, and good night. And I wanted to wish everybody a happy New Year. And once again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.